because if you criticise him, you get sent to a concentration camp. But he was still welcome to Manchester, and Manchester still keeps up those investment partnerships.
This is a different context. This is a president. This is a president that has
how is it different?
Well, in my view, it is, and it's here and it's now. It would cause real protest on our streets. I do not believe Britain will be a happier place the day after he's left than it was before he came. And therefore, why are we going to, at a time when our country has got enough division, why are we welcoming in even more?
Leaving that there for any answers, that number again, 03700 100 444, and advise if you want to get in early, the line's doing at 12:30. I know a lot of people want to get in, so if you want to be more likely to get on, get in early. Our next, please.
Noah Finnegan, what can children do to be taken more seriously on the topic of climate change, apart from the youth climate strikes going on currently, to get people in power to listen and, more importantly, act, as we are the generation who will have to deal with the consequences?
What generation are you, may I ask? I can see that you're not my generation.
I'm 13.
13. Michael Gove, Cabinet Minister, Environment Secretary, said we've not done nearly enough, he told Greta Thunberg. Christine Jardine.
I was there when he said that at the meeting in Westminster with Leila Moran from the Liberal Democrats' polling party. Caroline Lucas was there, and Ed Miliband was there, and there was a room full of us packed to listen to what she had to say, and it was very powerful and it was very moving. And just today, actually, this morning before I came down, I visited a primary school in my constituency who had each designed a postcard. There was about 100 of them that they sent to me about climate change and air pollution. And I think actually that's the key to what you're saying, is to not think, we must get away from this that you have to be a certain age before you have opinions. Speak out, tell people what you think. Climate change is a real pressing problem. We are perhaps only 10 years away from irreparable damage. We see it around us every single day. And, you know, I think the protests which the school children are doing at the moment are absolutely necessary in a way to awaken politicians up. And one of the saddest things about Brexit for me is that we've become so obsessed with what was an internal argument in the Conservative Party that we are not doing what we need to do to save the planet for future generations and ensure that you have all the advantages that we all had.
It's not difficult for politicians to talk the talk. It's not meant to be insulting to what you said.
No,
they talk the talk pretty well. She is, I'm talking about Greta Thunberg, I don't know, I expect Noah might find himself in some agreement, said that we had to get down to zero carbon emissions by 2025, which most people have said impossible. What's your view about getting the emissions down much more rapidly than the present projection, which is by 2050 they come down to 80% of 1990 levels? And we believe that the climate change advisory group in this country are going to suggest it should be brought forward to 100% by that date.
We're not doing enough. I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that we're not doing enough. And this government, particularly since, and the government since 2015, has undone a lot of work that was done during the coalition to try and limit the damage of climate change.
So give us one thing that you, if you had the authority and power to do it, the one thing that you would do.
The one thing I would do, well, I would ban single-use plastics. I would do right away. I would invest more money in carbon capture experiments to look at how we do that, and I would put more money into renewables, and I would actually ban fracking completely. And I would encourage the North Sea oil industry and gas industry, which has massive skill and technology, to use that into developing renewable energy like tidal, which is the most reliable form of renewable energy.
You are in government. The Secretary of State says we've not done nearly enough. And people have been, until maybe had not got the attention that it might have deserved until very recently, but for a decade or more, those who know about this have been banging on about the speed at which something has to be done because it is an emergency. Do you agree with Michael Gove, Minister, that we have not done nearly enough?
Well,
which means your government is not doing nearly enough.
Well, let's talk about what we have done.
No, let's answer the question first of all about, which is, if you'd be kind enough, is Michael Gove right to say?
Of course I'll answer the question, you just have to let me answer it in my own way, John.
One of those.
No, but just dealing with Noah's question, I will talk about my dear friend and chum, Michael Gove, in a moment. But dealing with Noah's question very directly, I think your voice coming on this programme tonight is something that should inspire young people across the north, across Merseyside, in a way that Greta Thunberg has. Is actually it is young people standing up to politicians like me and the other people on this panel and saying, we are the people who are going to inherit the earth in a few years' time. We'll all be dead by then, maybe. And we expect you to leave it better than you found it. And that should be our target in government. And if we're not going to do that, then Michael Gove is right, we need to do more, and we haven't done enough.
You might earn respect as well as flattering him for the importance of his contribution, which everyone would doubtless share. If you said, right, we're not going to do any more of shale gas fracking, we're not going to expand Heathrow Airport so that more and more planes can fly out of here. That's the kind of thing, correct me, that you're nodding your head, Noah, that's the kind of thing that the young are talking about.
But there's a balance to be struck. And if you look already, we've reduced greenhouse gas emission by 25% since 2010. CO2 emissions are falling faster in the UK than Germany, Italy and France. And if you look at the demand of going to zero carbon by 2025, what that would mean, just so people are really clear about it, is in the next 6 years, every single car on the road in the UK, every single aeroplane that flies through the sky would have to be scrapped and replaced. I personally don't think that is achievable. I think there is more we can do, particularly I think in the area of reusable plastics. It delights me that every time I go to the supermarket now, that people are there with their reusable bags. That has been an extraordinary change in society, 90% almost cut in the amount of plastic bags we use. And the one thing I would do to accelerate us in government dealing with this climate emergency, as you described it, Jonathan, is I do think we do need to refocus our efforts back onto renewable energy. And for someone born and brought up in this city, when I see the tide rushing in and out of the River Mersey and other estuaries up and down the coast of the UK, I think there is a lot more we should look to do in this country with tidal energy. It's a huge resource, and at the moment we're not using it.
Thank you. And Harry Cole.
I think it's all well and good ministers banging on about cutting plastic bags, but let's be realistic here. 30% of the world's pollution, China. 15% America, 7% India, Russia, 5%. You have to get quite far down the list before you get to plucky little Britain banning wood-burning stoves and a couple of plastic bags. My advice to the younger generation who are attacking us now is aim higher. I mean, you've got to take this global, and I just think that Britain's contribution to this as a nation is, to use a bad pun, is a bit of a drop in the ocean.
Okay, and Bernard.
Well, to answer your question, I think clearly politicians at a national level are not particularly listening. As I said, they're so absorbed with this never-ending Brexit debate. Your generation's done a great service, by the way, from getting Brexit off the news for a few days, as you managed to do. So thank you for that. We all know you for that. Here's my suggestion to you here in Merseyside. Try the devolve route. The new combined authorities that we have. You asked me how you could get your voice heard. I gave a platform to young people who protested about climate change in Greater Manchester at our Green Summit. They opened our Green Summit, and I made sure their voices guided the whole day, and I'm sure Steve Rotherham here would do the same if you approached him. I think what's happening is devolution, I think, is going to speed up the response to climate change, using the freedoms that we have to break away from national policy, because they're not moving fast enough, whatever Jake says. So our Green Summit endorsed a date of 2038 for carbon neutrality. That's way ahead of the UK's target. You might not say far enough, but it's what we feel we can do at the moment. To support that, we've said zero carbon buildings in Greater Manchester by 2028. We have said we want a presumption of a ban on fracking, to pick up Christine's point. We are prioritising cycling and walking infrastructure for transport investment. If you take all of that together, it probably comes to the most radical environmental policy anywhere in the UK, and that's Greater Manchester's policy. And this is the point. The reason why I'm pushing you towards devolution. Cities like ours are prepared to go faster than countries at a national level. Countries at a national level will always legislate for the slowest moving as well as the fastest moving. Go to the places that want to work with you as young people. We want to work with you. Get a strong, radical, forward-thinking environment policy, and in the end, other areas will be forced to follow suit.
Very briefly, because I want to go back and briefly ask Noah what he thinks, but Minister.
Just, Andy, credit where credit's due, I think. I really think that you're making good progress in Manchester. I do think devolution is a way of speeding this up. However, just a couple of those things you did mention, the cycling infrastructure and encouraging walking, is being paid for by the government. So it's a
fair enough.
Effort,
Jake, fair enough. Right, and thank you for that investment. And nobody, I've left the party politics and the point scoring down. I must say, I'm not interested in it anymore. I want to work with you to put devolution back on the agenda. You promised us your government a northern powerhouse. That's the job title your role carries. Let's get back to that. But when are we going to have this northern powerhouse?
Well, and
give us more investment to deliver what we need.
Your job title of Mayor of Manchester, because there was no Mayor of Manchester when you were in government. It is this government that has delivered the northern powerhouse and created a Mayor of Manchester.
I think
brilliant work.
I think I did mention that I think listeners might like to hear what Noah Finnegan thinks of what he's heard so far. Noah.
Can I just go on to what Harry Cole said? I looked through your Twitter for the show. I found
I don't recommend that.
You had commented on a video of Extinction Rebellion in Waterloo, saying something along the lines of this mess or what's going on here.
I think it was the man playing the harp while people were trying to get to work was increasingly frustrating and probably not the best way to draw attention or indeed win people over to an argument by shutting down bike lanes.
But they were making their voices heard. They are not members of parliament. They can't do something big. They're doing what they can.
Thank you very much. And that's the end of this week's programme. Next week the programme comes from Berkhamsted, and in the chair there, because I'm not going to be there, is Ruth Shah, and the panel will be a terrific panel. That's all we've got time for from here. Merchant Taylor's Boys' School, Crosby Merseyside, I said boys' school, girls and boys are here, let's call the boys' school. Goodbye.
On tonight's Any Questions panel were the Northern Powerhouse Minister Jake Berry, the Mayor of Greater Manchester Andy Burnham, the political journalist Harry Cole, and Liberal Democrat MP Christine Jardine. The chair was Jonathan Dimbleby, and the programme was produced by Lisa Jenkinson. Now on Radio 4, here's Sarah Dunant with A Point of View.
Well, I would